notification in Server Manager, and if we click on it, it tells us configuration is required for Active Directory domain services at server 1, and we need to click promote this server to a domain controller. I'm going to create a brand new installation of Active Directory, so I'm going to create a new forest and a new forest root domain. If you're not too familiar with Active Directory forests and domains, why not take a look at my Active Directory overview video on the IT Taster channel. Now I need to choose add a new forest, and I need to specify the root domain. Now it's recommended that you don't create a new Active Directory forest with the same domain name as your external DNS domain name. I'm going to specify a private internal domain name by adding .local to the end of it, and I'm going to use ittaster.local and click next. We need to select the forest and domain functional level. Functional levels determine domain controller capabilities and, importantly, the supported operating systems the domain controllers can run. But functional levels don't determine the operating systems you're able to run on servers that are not domain controllers. The forest functional level applies to all domains and domain controllers in the forest and is the minimum functional level. The domain functional level applies to domain controllers within the domain. It cannot be set lower than the forest functional level, but it can be set higher. Now forest and domain functional levels should be set as high as possible, and they can be raised later, but make sure all of your domain controllers are supported, so do your homework first. I'm not going to be working with any legacy domain controllers, so I'm going to leave the forest and domain functional levels set at Windows Server 2012. DNS has been selected for us. A Microsoft Dynamic DNS server is needed for Active Directory. The Global Catalog Server option is ticked and greyed out because we must have at least one global catalog server. And the read-only domain controller option is unticked and greyed out because our first domain controller cannot be a read-only domain controller. And finally, we need to specify a password for our directory services restore mode. This is very important should you need to perform an Active Directory recovery. And click next. We get a warning telling us a delegation for this DNS server cannot be created, and this is because we've not yet installed DNS, so we can click next. Here our NetBIOS domain name is verified, and we're also given the option to change it if necessary. Now the NetBIOS domain naming convention is a pre-Windows 2000 technology, but it's remained in use and can still be required by some applications and network devices. And click next. Here you can specify alternative locations for the Active Directory database, log files and the sysvol folder. I'm going to stick with the defaults and click next. We can review our settings, and we've also got the option to export our settings to a PowerShell script. And click next. The prerequisite check is complete, and it tells us all prerequisite checks have passed successfully. We've got a couple of warnings down here, but these are to be expected when you perform the installation of a brand new Active Directory forest. So we can go ahead and click install. At the end of the installation, the server signs off and will reboot.